All right, welcome back. We have a knife that feels like there's not a knife in here. Feels like an empty box, part of the magic of this particular knife brand and maker. And let's get into it. This just came in from Jason Van Camp at VC Edge. One of the coolest knife makers in the industry, hands down, and makes one of the coolest knives in the industry. Man, this is not a knife for your average Cub Scout. This is a knife for people that want the most extreme of what is possible in terms of making an EDC extremely lightweight, extremely well polished, and extremely enjoyable, both for the aesthetic as well as the action. Amazing stuff coming out of VC Edge knives. And this particular one is interesting because I got this and it had been dropped. And there's like a little tiny chip right here that you can see where it had been dropped. And there was a little tiny chip out of the tip from being dropped. And I just sent it to Jason, paid a service fee, a little spa fee, and it is like brand new. Cannot tell at all. It ends up actually being the same length the way you did it. Super cool of him to be able to work on a knife that well and restore it to what it should be. And for me, I'm glad to pay it because it's such a cool knife. It should be in the best possible form just for things to be right in the world. Let me see if I can find a piece of paper here and we'll check the edge. We'll check the VC Edge and see how he did. Remember that chip was right up towards the front tip of the knife. Woo! I don't know if you can see that on the screen, but let me do it at a slight different angle. Of course, it was not focused. Hang on, let me try that one more time here. That is like a very light tap. And you can just go straight right down the piece of paper. Pretty amazing, the edge that he puts on these knives. From my understanding, there is actually, at a friend, look at it under a telescope, and although it looks like it's a zero edge, there is a very small micro bevel that's put on the edge. I think he talks about it on the website somewhere, but anyway, let's get a little more zoomed in here, a little more focused rather. Because man, this blue Anno variant to me is one of the coolest for like one I'd actually want to carry. I do really like my Blurple ones, but they're a little loud for me. A 40-something father of one and married man. Not doing a lot of Blurple, candidly. The city I live in, it's not a very Blurple kind of city, but I do appreciate it. And so from a carry perspective, this blue one's a little cooler for me, or a little more likely to be something I would carry. This thing's got obviously a little bit of wear on it and been used and dropped. And so that's really the goal here, was to get one of these that I could carry, repair it to like new, and maybe put it to the use a little bit. I think it'd be a really neat knife to actually carry and use. I think it's just so optimized. And sorry, I don't know why my focus keeps failing here, but I'll get up in a slightly different position and see if we can improve things so I can see the screen a little better. Man, they just he just put such a cool, it's such a cool concept where the carbon fiber fades into the M390 blade here. And it's just a remarkable feat of engineering on this knife. So this one here is VC Edge interface number 97. So it's one of the first 100 made. Realize some of the stuff got in the handle there. And man, just the action, the weight of it, everything's so cool. Now the one thing that I think could be really neat, and that he and I have discussed and he'd like to do, would be a smaller knife, because this is not a small knife. To put it in perspective, that's a Demco 80-20.5. It's bigger than a 20.5, which is also not a small knife. It is definitely the smallest Demco, but you know, put this in perspective. This is a full-size Demco right here. You know, that's the big one. And it's not that much shorter than it, right? It's like a couple millimeters shorter, a few millimeters, 10, you know, like 10 millimeters or something. It's just really quite a big knife at the end of the day. Again, putting this in perspective, take a look at the length of the blade here. That is a full-size knife that weighs 1.5 ounces, basically 1.6 ounces, depending what model you got and when it was made. He's kind of lightened them up over time more. That's crazy. This weighs 1/5 of what that weighs. And yet the action, amazing. So with that in mind, you know, I actually think from a pocket perspective, because this is the Pocket Priorities channel, there could even be a, you know, a version of this that's sub 1 ounce, where you're maybe going after like a 2.75 or a 3-inch blade length, as opposed to like this full size, like 3.5+ inch blade length, which is awesome. It's part of what makes this so remarkable, is that it's so light to be a full-size knife, but that's still even a little overkill for my average carry situation, where I actually really like, you know, if I'm wearing shorts or something, a mini bug out, which is quite a bit smaller, or maybe even a full-size bug out, which again, still smaller. So this is just a really quite a big knife there. Put it in, you know, further perspective. Here's the CAJRB Pyrite, which is a little shorter than the bug out. They're about the same. So yeah, this thing is a big knife, and I think if he were to do a 1 ounce knife, oh my God, that would just be one of the ultimate EDCs of all time. It'd basically be this mini bug out, which is already 1.5 ounces, and you could get it down to 1 ounce in this same size. That would be just crazy. Now this is already plenty light. I don't think things need to be lighter, but part of what makes engineering is cool is figuring out what the limits are. Part of what I think makes collecting cool is collecting things that are pushing the limits and are unique and handmade. Not handmade CNC, but, you know, basically one-man shop made in this case, and you know, pushing things to the very limit of what's possible, the ultimate luxury in knives. So with those things in mind, I'll wrap this one up, but hope you enjoyed it, and please like, subscribe, and if you ever have a chance to get your hands on a VC Edge interface for a reasonable price, do not hesitate. These were $850 or so when they were new back in the day. The latest versions, I think he's selling for $1,100. There's slightly different engineering here, where this lock bar goes to the end and you don't see any metal on this side, so it's a little different design. But anyway, yeah, they're well worth $1,000 in terms of like what they've done from an engineering perspective compared to other $1,000 knives. I'm not going to say, you know, like, is this a 10 times better knife? Well, I guess these are now almost $200 freaking dollars, but a 5 times better knife than the Benchmade bug out? No, absolutely not. But it is the absolute furthest or deepest into what's possible for a 1.5 ounce knife at its size. It's just the ultimate execution that I've seen. I've never seen something that does what this does and the way it does it for the weight it does it in. You can even see some of the milling out of the carbon fiber there. You don't see a lot of milling out of carbon fiber scales. That's pretty unique. So cool stuff. That's all for now. Please like, subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Take care.